Hi, friends. This is Miss Metz here. Today I'm going to read to you one of my favorite stories from childhood, another one called Norman Fools the Tooth Fairy. This is written by Carol Carrick and illustrated by Lisa McHugh. And Norman is this cute little crocodile, or maybe an alligator. Norman was the only kid in his class who hadn't lost a baby tooth. One was sort of loose now. Instead of finishing his worksheet, Norman wiggled the tooth with his finger. I know you guys have done that in my classes. Later, while his teacher, Miss Harp, read them a story, Norman waggled the tooth with his tongue. How else was he going to get a tooth to put under his pillow for the tooth fairy? His friends gave him lots of advice. I tied a string around my loose tooth, said Toby, and then I tied the other end to a doorknob and my sister slammed the door. Norman winced. Ooh. My dad pulled mine out, said Matt, with his pliers. I don't think Norman likes any of those ideas. Norman shuddered, but he admired the empty space between their teeth when they smiled. It showed that the tooth fairy had already paid them a visit. Try biting into an apple, said Sarah, or eat lots of caramels. Norman didn't have any caramels, but he did have a piece of licorice in his lunch bag. Norman tried chewing on the licorice for a while, but nothing happened. Then he stuck it over his tooth. Look at me now, he said. Hey, said Toby, Norman lost his front tooth. When Norman ate the licorice off, everyone laughed. That night, Norman stuck some licorice on his tooth again and smiled at himself in the mirror. He looked wonderful, as though a tooth were really missing. It gave him an idea. He fooled his friends. Why not fool the tooth fairy? Maybe she would think his tooth really fell out, but the tooth fairy would want to see it. Norman searched the bathroom for something like a tooth. At last, he broke off a tooth-sized chip of soap. Perfect, he said, and wrapped it in toilet paper. Then, when Norman went to bed, he stuck the fake tooth under his pillow and turned out the light. I wonder if this is going to work. Norman tossed and turned, waiting for the tooth fairy to come. What would she be like, he wondered. Maybe she would be a pretty lady in a sparkling gown, looking for lost teeth. Hey, tooth fairy, he would call to her. Here's one. Norman felt for the soap chip under his pillow. It was very small, and it was hard to find. The tooth fairy might not see it. He wrapped lots of toilet paper around the fake tooth and marked it Norman's tooth. It made a big lump under his pillow. Now she couldn't miss it. Norman lay in bed waiting. Soon the tooth fairy would float into his room with a bag of money. After a while, though, he began to worry. How does she know when someone's tooth falls out? Does the tooth fairy just go from house to house looking under pillows? Norman got out of bed and made a sign with his crayons. Tooth under here, it said. An arrow pointed to his pillow, just to be sure. It must be very late, Norman thought. Maybe she wasn't going to come. Once he even dozed off. But he woke with a start and checked the tooth under his pillow. He hoped that somehow a quarter had taken its place. But no, the lump of toilet paper and soap was still there. What did the tooth fairy do with all those teeth? Norman wondered. She must want them for something special. Maybe she made them into keychains. Wonder if she's going to visit Norman. Now Norman saw a light come through his window. It was growing larger. He peeked between his closed eyelids, hoping for a glimpse of the pretty lady. What he saw did not look like a tooth fairy to Norman. It looked more like a monster with baby teeth hanging from her necklace. It was a tooth monster coming toward his bed. Teeth, the tooth monster yelled. I want teeth. Little helpers were following behind her. Teeth, they chanted, waving pliers. Give me teeth. There's a kid with a whole mouthful, one of them screeched. Let's get him. Seems to me Norman might be having a little bit of a nightmare. Wait! Norman was so excited that he swallowed the licorice. There aren't any teeth in here. Honest, he said. I was only fooling. Look, Norman turned the light on in a hurry. He reached under his pillow, but the monsters had vanished. Even so, he got up and threw the fake tooth out the window. And just to feel safe, he slept the rest of the night with the light on. The next morning, Norman was tired when he went to school. For the first time in weeks, he didn't check his tooth. At lunch, when he was eating his peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Norman bit down on something hard. It was his tooth. It had fallen out all by itself, just like that. Just the way he had always dreamed that it would happen. How will the tooth fairy hear that my tooth came out? He asked his mother at bedtime. Don't worry, she said. The tooth fairy knows all about it. But Norman looked worried. Well, suppose she isn't very nice. His mother patted his head. I'm sure she's someone you would like. Even so, Norman slept with the light on again. He squeezed his eyes shut and never opened them again until morning. When Norman felt under his pillow, sure enough, his tooth was gone, and in its place was a shiny new quarter. The end. And there's Norman brushing his teeth. I hope you enjoyed this story, OA. I miss all of you. Bye.